Good evening, everybody, and welcome to At the Post Live here at the Party Glass in Saratoga. I want to thank everybody for coming down. We've got a big crowd. We've got a big show. We've got a big man up here on the stage as well. Nobody brings him out like my good friend Dale Robles. How are you, Dale?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming down. One thing about Dale. Dale actually had to turn us down for something recently. I don't think I've ever seen anybody feel so bad about turning anybody down for something.
Yeah, Belmont, after that car wreck I had, and I was feeling pretty bad. And when you called us, that's the first time I've ever had to turn Andy down, and I didn't feel good about it.
No, we felt bad that you were hurt. You know, Dale was in more than a little bit of a fender bender. We almost lost you around right at Derby night.
Well, it could have happened. It could have happened. I said I probably cost myself a good movie by living through it. But yeah, Derby night we were driving home. Me and a carload of friends, but you know them all, were in. Somebody ran a stop sign in front of me. I slammed on the brake, hit them, spun us into oncoming traffic, and we were T-boned right beside me. A lot of people hurt pretty bad. I ended up with some internal damage and broken ribs, and our friend Kurt broke his pelvis in his neck and cysts in his neck. It was a bad wreck, but we all survived.
Kurt's walking. I saw Kurt walking.
He's playing golf, so he's doing very well. 5 weeks in the hospital, and he's doing pretty well.
Might help his golf game.
It probably will.
How you feeling now?
Feeling good. Feeling good. Glad to be back out doing things, and glad to be back on the show.
You've been laying a little low, just sort of low, and so I haven't seen you that much in Saratoga. I miss you.
Yeah, I've been laying low really since Derby days, but I'm ready to come back out and rise up like a phoenix and go again.
Well, we got the big crowd, we got the big night here. And, you know, it's funny, you talk about coming back. It seems that you're a man that can never be counted out. I mean, last year, you always seem to come up with something, and last year, you were the man who beat American Pharoah.
Yeah, it was a great day. It was something special. I won a lot of big races in my career, but that one is the most historic. That's the one that was probably the pinnacle of my entire career. To do something, because every race that I won before, World Cup, Preakness, all those were great races, great moments in my life and my career. But somebody will do it again next year. You know, it's been 40 years since somebody beat a Triple Crown winner, and it happened to be our great friend Alan Jerkins that did it.
Absolutely, and that was one of the greatest nights here in the show when you brought Alan Jerkins to come down here. It's funny, you bring up Alan, since you and he were very close. A lot of people want to call him the Giant Killer, which a moniker that you could also get. It was not a name that he liked.
No, I don't think he did. But I don't know. He always acted like he didn't like any of his titles. But if you called him something besides the chief, you can see a little frown on his face.
And like him, you know, we were joking before he came on. You and I were teasing a fellow trainer in Florida who has been known to occasionally, and I know none of the trainers here, like Kieran or Jeremiah, who runs at Finger Lakes all the time, would ever run a horse out of town to try to bump up their win percentage. Tom Hayes. Dale, you're not a man who's worried about his win percentage.
That's way too much work for me. I don't know how these guys do it. They ship all over the country when these races run. No, that's never been my style in my career. I'm a 16% career trainer. I play that way, but I like to just try to develop a good horse every once in a while. A quick story about Alan Jerkins that night he came on here with you. You know, it's so hard to get him out at night. And it took everything I had to get him to. I told him I'll buy you dinner, I'll drive you to the front door. As soon as you get off, I'll put you back in there and we'll be out of here in bed by 9:30. And so we go to dinner, he's nervous. He's sure we think we really want to do this? He gets up here nervous, he doesn't think he's a good public speaker, and you know, hit it out of the park.
He was
had to be your best show ever. Anybody that's here knows what a great show it was. Getting back off the stage, I pull the car right to the front door, I put him in, and we're driving off. He says, you know, Jerry Bailey was up next. We might have should have stayed and listened.
Yes, everybody in racing was lucky to know him, and I think probably like so many people, you learned a great deal from him.
Learned a lot about everything, not the ins and outs of training a horse, but mostly philosophy of training horses and being in the racing game, the philosophies of life that he lived with for a long time. He helped a lot of people along the way, and he helped this game and just by being a great representative of it.
He was, and he was a great representative. And I think one of the things you learned from him was never to be afraid to take a shot.
No, that's what he always preached. He preached to me that, and never change to do what the public thinks you should do. You're your own person, and that's the only way that you can do it. If you try to do something the way other people want you to. And he told me coming up that he was always a little bit different than everybody else in training horses, and I've always felt like I was a little bit different. He said, don't change, don't try to conform to what other people are doing, because it's working for you, and it worked for him.
Right.
That was a difficult part for him to learn.
What works for one person doesn't necessarily
always work for the other, and neither one are really wrong.
Right, and sometimes, you know, some of you do the things in racing and they may or may not work out. There aren't too many people in this game that would have run Little Mike in the Breeders' Cup turf, mile and a half.
No, that was a special day, and I know you're going to have Ramon up here in a few minutes.
Ramon Dominguez is here.
And I mean, we couldn't have been done without him. And that's an interesting story too. Going into that week, we were going to run in the mile, and I kept looking at the race, We can't beat Wise Daniels. And we'd already gone a mile and a quarter with him. If we go a mile and a quarter, the pace scenario is going to be a lot different. Slow it down. I think he can get the mile and a half, and I didn't think that race was that tough. Sugar's horse coming off a long layoff. I could see us winning. So we made a last-minute decision to run in the mile and a half. It looked like we were crazy. But if you looked at the race, we couldn't get the lead. I was planning on being 5 in front and trying to just out-gallop them. And I tell on the paper, we can't get in front of a couple of horses and win this race. So telling Ramon in the paddock to let the others go. And for the first time ever, let little Mike try to set off the pace, going a mile and a half in the Breeders' Cup turf. No way, I didn't know what was going to happen, but Ramon got it done.
I don't think there was another rider in the world who won that race.
No, it's a perfect storm. Everything came together. He gave a perfect ride. And, I don't know if he remembers, and I told him in the paddock, just let those other two go. You sit behind them galloping, and you'll inherit the lead. And then you just got to ride your ass off the last 8 and hold them off. And he did. But let me tell you a quick sideline story to that one. Last year, I think it was, or the year before, when they had all the famous jockeys, all the famous, the greatest, one of the best events I've been to in racing.
Got rained out this year. It's so annoying. It's a great event.
But all those jockeys out there, and it was the first time that they'd all ever been together. So the first of everything's great. So I come out of the races, and Ramon's standing in the parking lot, and he's telling me, you won't believe I was just standing there giddy like a kid talking to Lafitte and Angel and Georgie and these great jockeys. Jacinto. I said, Ramon, don't you realize you're ever been as good as any one of those names that you just mentioned? He stopped for a second and looked at me and said, I think you're biased because we did something special together. And that was the highlight of one of my highlights of my career. We've done something special together. I just think we did.
You did do something special. It's funny because when Little Mike won, a lot of people were saying, point of entry, he had trouble, he was this and that. And I'm thinking, and I wouldn't have bet Little Mike in a million years. I'm just happy to see you guys win. I'm thinking, Little Mike, what he did to win this race was a miracle, and Point of Entry was a terrific horse, but Little Mike was flat out the best horse that day.
I love Point of Entry. I brought a couple of mares to him to prove it, but everybody can say anything about it. It matters. The bottom line is we got to the wire first, and he had to do a lot of great things to do it. But that's another ups and downs of the horse race. In the race before, in the dirt mile with Shackelford, I didn't think there's any way we could lose. And he stumbles and falls on his head, spots the best mileage in the country or in the world. 5 lengths, you just can't do it. He doesn't catch up. I thought that we were essentially thinking the third Breeders' Cup.
It's a short price, too, wasn't it?
God, it was even money. And then there's a picture of somebody sent me of me and Jacob sitting in the tunnel at Santa Anita. They walked back, and both of us are sitting on a bench looking so dejected. And I'm telling him, he said, we got one more to go. I said, I got no more chances. So you think this middle of Mike, I was even starting to doubt myself. And then we come back and win that race, and it just turns around. That's the greatness of this game, the ups and downs. That's why you just got to keep getting up every morning and tacking them up.
It's amazing. There's always a chance for redemption in horse racing.
They say nobody's ever killed himself at only yearly.
Well, you've got a nice 2-year-old, by the way. Not this time.
I was telling Jake today, I think it's one of the best horses I've ever had. I mean, it's a total package. Johnny's Causeway, half brother to Liam Smap, and Taylor S. And has the mindset, the turn of foot, everything about him. And he ran a beautiful race at Ellis. I quit bringing my 2-year-olds up here a long time ago. I think it's just too hard on them what they got to do to win up here against these tough horses. And it kind of eased him into their career, and he ran a monster race.
He's a horse to look out for. Are you going to run him maybe in the race, the Iroquois at Churchill, or are you going to wait for Keeneland?
Well, there's the Iroquois coming up, and then there's a Futurity. It's tough this year because there's only 3 weeks between the two. If you want to do both and then try to make Breeders' Cup, we're going to train on him. I want to go home and work him this week, and we'll figure out what to do with him from here. But he's truly a quality racehorse.
Yeah, I got to watch it because I was watching with Tom Amis, and he had a horse in against you. We watched the race, and he said, I don't think I can beat Dale's horse. And, wow, that horse was very good. Very good, yeah, very, very nice. So we always like to hear your where you are in the state of racing, because nobody's more opinionated on the state of racing than you, Dale. So give us a couple minutes on Dale Romans and the current state of the game.
Well, the state of the game is that we're still filling grandstands, clubhouses like Saratoga and big events, and the game is strong. So there's a lot of changes that have come about. They're starting to settle down. I mean, the internet coming on board. This is the perfect game for the internet. It's tailor-made. It's a beautiful game. It looks good on presentation. It's good. If you want to wager, it's easy to do. There's so many good stories that are being told on the internet. I think we're just going to grow our fan base. I think we're going to have a different type of player in the future. I think we're going to have people who get behind their stable and their trainer, their jockey, their horse, and start betting on that as much as they do handicapping. But everything's starting to settle down with all the changes, and I think we're in a good spot. We have good people in control right now, and we argue about little things like whether or not we should use Lasix and stuff, but it's all petty stuff. The big deal is that we're putting on a good show for the people who love horse racing, and we definitely are. And like I told you the other Tuesday at the draw, when I got refreshed about the game after the Travers last year. I made that comment at the draw popping off that I want to thank Chris Kay for limiting the number of people that could boo me last year after we beat American Pharoah. Then walking back, I wish he'd let everybody in the world come because everybody in Grayson was cheering our horse. And I couldn't believe it. I really thought after beating their horse that we would get booed. And I was a relish. I walked by my horse, didn't go to the trophy presentation. And they cheered American Pharoah in front of us as he walked by, and they cheered my horse for his performance as we walked by. I said, these are true racehorse fans, and they appreciated the great performance.
Give yourselves a big hand. I could not agree more. There's nothing better for those of us in racing, who work in racing, to come to Saratoga, and the people are so nice to us. You wonder what we've done to deserve them being as nice as they are to us.
Well, I think that we haven't done a thing. It's the horses. The horses, they bridge everything. I mean, you see a billionaire standing next to a guy making minimum wage, and they both cheer at the screen. They turn around and talk about what just happened. And there's nowhere else in the world. Horses are the great equalizer. They bring everybody together. I don't know what it is, but there's something about it. We don't do it for cows. We don't do it for chickens. But from the beginning of time, horses bring us all together, and we all have a common bond in it.
Couldn't agree more. It's brought us all together, Dale Williams. Thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck, Dale Williams. Stay with us. We come right back. After those live, brought to you by Capital OTB. Watch